Okay. My first teaching job was at a school called Esperanza Academy in South Phoenix, Arizona. I was fresh from college, a Midwestern girl from a Midwestern university in the middle of the desert, sent to this inner city school as a part of Teach for America, ready to change the world. In my head, I was Michelle Pfeiffer in the recent hit movie Dangerous Minds. I was gonna get in there and get in that classroom, and my deep love of reading and sparkling personality would inspire my students to work hard and go to college and achieve. Armed with this passion and 6 weeks of training, I walked into my classroom of 21 boys and 8 girls, ages 13 through 18. The school was started by a successful family in the neighborhood under the recently passed charter school law. The neighborhood was lined with rundown strip malls and liquor stores. Some of the houses on the streets had chickens in the yard or a goat tied to a post. It was like another planet to me. My students were all first or second generation immigrants to the United States. They were frustrated by the uniform policy and highly suspicious of me. I didn't look much older than them. I pronounced their names wrong, Jesus instead of Jesus. Oh yeah. I could not make Serapio roll off my tongue. I did not seem like a real teacher. The parents were hopeful about the new school. I had more than 40 people crammed into my classroom trailer for the open house the first week. I spoke for about 10 minutes, and then I paused and looked around. Something was wrong. I frantically looked to a parent I had spoken to earlier. She looked around and then stood up. She asked in Spanish if she should translate what I was saying. Parents gratefully nodded. No one had understood a word I said. The kids knew English, but they wore blank looks similar to their parents. Once the year began, it became clear that this school was not going to be much different than the schools they left. Just like in those big urban high schools, students did not have schedules until the third week of school. The halls were chaotic. Classrooms were short on books and paper and supplies. No one was in the office to deal with discipline issues. In my classroom, chaos reigned. The students questioned my every move. They asked me repeatedly what I was doing there. I did not seem to be able to get everyone quiet at the same time. Kids were indifferent to my efforts at best and outright defiant to me at others. But then, in the second month, a breakthrough. I found a story we could enjoy together, and from there, trust began to grow. Oh yeah. It was the classic young adult book, The Outsiders. It was a hit with the entire class. The story is about 2 rival gangs. There are no adults. There is romance, friendship, and death. Ignoring the descriptions of the characters, the kids assumed that everyone in the book was Mexican, and I let that assumption carry us through the book. To my delight, there was even a Rumble reenactment during lunch. I was so happy that kids were thinking about the book when they weren't even in class. No one was injured, and I had found some fragile common ground with my students. But then, a new challenge. I was told by the counselor to teach history in the afternoons. I panicked. History? At this point in my very short teaching career, I saw teaching as a simple transaction, a handoff. I pictured my students' heads with hinges on the front, and I was trying to open their foreheads and insert the new knowledge, like a file into a file cabinet. If only I could find the key to get into the cabinet, I could cram the books right in there. If they would just listen to what I said and understand it and believe it, they would get it right on the test and get out of this neighborhood. I had all the right answers to share if only they would listen. So when I thought about teaching history, I did not think too much about what I would be teaching, just that I wanted to be able to get through a unit, get something filed into their heads. When I went to the local teacher store, I saw a ready-made unit on the explorers, featuring Hernando Cortez, the Spanish conquistador responsible for conquering much of mainland Mexico. This seemed like a win because this was Mexican history. The people in the story looked like them, just as they had assumed of the outsiders. I went in Monday morning with copies of the story. I had maps to color and timelines to construct. When I started the lesson, the response was less than enthusiastic. Students gazed out the windows as I gave a hurried introduction. When I passed out the packets, the murmuring began. Ralph, a student who had been haunting my teacher anxiety nightmares since the beginning of the year, spoke first. He shouted, "I don't want to learn this. I don't care about this guy." Other students soon joined the protest. He wasn't exploring, he killed all the people. And here's the thing, if you ever want a brutally honest opinion about your hair or your clothes or your personality, or if what you're talking about is boring, just stand in front of a bunch of teenagers. They will not hesitate to share their opinions. But in this moment, I saw past the surliness that often came at me at Waves as I taught. This was authentic. It wasn't just that they didn't want to do the work. This was a one-sided tale, the same story they heard everywhere. The white people, the explorers, the pioneers, Michelle Pfeiffer. The white people came and tamed them and made everything right. I collected the packets and threw them in the trash. This experience is one I come back to a lot when I think about teaching, when I stop to question my assumptions about a student and why he or she is refusing to do the work, and my role in this process. Teachers hold the powerful, yet often unacknowledged position of interpreting knowledge for the next generation. What should I be telling kids about the way power is yielded in our world? Whose version of history is the right one? These are the questions to be considered every day in the classroom. Learning is a slow, messy, unglamorous process, and much more interesting than a movie. Teaching is not a matter of one person filing facts away in another person's head or one shining moment that changes everyone's life. Teaching well requires questioning one's own understanding of the world over and over again. It is a balance of giving and taking, speaking and listening, exploring the world and not conquering it.